buddy, Jim from Jim's Coleus. Okay, here we are, New Jersey, Jersey Shore. We're waiting on the blizzard of 2026. Normally we don't get a lot of snow here at the Jersey Shore, but this is a nor'easter, and we get a lot of heavy snow on the way. We're supposed to get almost 2 feet, so stay tuned. So meanwhile, trying to get into the swing of it, and my Ruby Road overwintered Coleus, it needs to be repotted, so that's what we're going to be doing. This is a whopper. This is that really thick snow that sticks. This is obviously the inside of the door. Bubble went out, did his thing, and it's going to get 100 times worse. It's supposed to get like 28 inches. Okay, so got our Miracle-Gro potting mixture. I ran out to the store yesterday knowing I'm going to be snowbound for 2 or 3 days. I went into the greenhouse, brought in one of the racks, just anticipating eventually when I separate my Coleus germinations, the trays will be here. And I got my overwintered Coleus. Check out this monster Orchard Road overwintered Coleus. This one here, it's in a fairly decent sized pot if you can find it. So I'm not really worried about this getting repotted. I'm not going to repot it, but as I'll show you next, the Ruby Road, it really needs a new home. Okay, so I already actually popped it. It needed a little help. I had to use a butter knife just gently down the sides because this thing has been in here since, I guess, probably July when I potted it. So I did pop it out gently, and it was really, I would show you actually started doing it, and I'm like, you know what, I think I'll do a video on this because this is such a beautiful, beautiful Coleus, but it essentially popped out as one big unit. You could see the tremendous root ball. The whole thing was a root ball with some soil, and what happens eventually in a small pot like this and a big, big plant, the roots just take over the soil. Eventually it just strips all of the nutrients out of the soil, and all you're going to have are roots. Coleus have very stringy, prolific root systems, and if they are in a pot for a year or two, they will really take over the soil. So here we are. I chose a fairly good sized pot. I didn't want to go too crazy because we are indoors. I have not taken cuttings of this yet. I will, but I really wanted to get it into this pot because it can only do so much. It'll only stay healthy so long in this little pot. But look at the beautiful color on this Ruby Road. What a beautiful, beautiful Coleus. Okay, so again, we use our Miracle-Gro moisture control potting mixture, which has like a vermiculite mixed in already, and I believe they do have some fertilizer mixed in, but I do have my Osmocote time release indoor-outdoor plant food, which I will use once I start to pot up my Coleus later on. We'll sprinkle a little bit in here, but as you can see, there's the root ball. You can see the square. So I kind of filled it. I wanted to make sure it doesn't go right to the top. We want a little bit of a space. But as you can see, there's a lot of root. I sprinkled a little bit. I put some soil on the bottom, sprinkled a little of the Osmocote on the bottom, and then put some more soil, sprinkled a little bit of the Osmocote, and matched up where it is, how high I wanted the top of the Ruby Road to go. And then now we're filling in the sides, and then we'll give it a little bit of Osmocote on the top. Just wanted to shout out to my fellow YouTuber, Natasha, Garden Mouse. If you want to check out a really great gardening channel. Check out Garden Mouse on YouTube. She really specializes in all sorts of hydrangeas, so forth. So many different plants. And she had sent this froggy to me. So thank you, Natasha. So thank you also, Natasha. Phil and Monica have been trying to have a baby frog for a few seasons now, but I guess it just isn't in the cards. So they adopted Leopold. They named him Leopold. So Phil and Monica now have their own baby little frog. So thank you, Natasha. You made Phil and Monica a happy couple, a happy mom and dad, proud parents of their little Leopold. And before we close, let's check in on our germinations, how we're doing. Our 2 trays. We still have the box there to give them proper light because this shelf is a little lower than the top one. So, and I noticed that they were getting a little leggy, so we brought the tray up higher so they're closer to the light. That's a little indicator on whether or not if your Coleus germinations or plants need more light, they get a little stringy and leggy because they're reaching for light. So just take that into consideration. But everything's doing good. We have our true leaves coming in. I have the labels reversed, so I don't know which varieties these are, but there's our true leaves in the center, and then the cotyledons. The cotyledons are still larger than true leaves, but not for long. This is the first tray. So this first tray was up on the top shelf, and then I planted the second tray last week, and that's up top. So we put the first tray down below, and that's why I wanted to bring the box in to raise up the tray so it gets enough light. But you can see this is the second tray, and of course they're not at the same level of growth as the first tray, which is by design. So I don't have hundreds and hundreds of Coleus all coming due at the same time because I have to separate them and pot them. So I do that to keep myself from going nuts. And again, I have the trays backwards. I spun them around a little bit just to give them a little different aspect of light. And again, at this point, we're on a timer. So I have it going off at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and it comes back on around 7 a.m. So we make sure they're getting light, but they need their rest. So make sure at this point you switch over to the day-night cycle. You only keep your grow lights on 24/7 until all your germinations come in. Then you switch to the day-night cycle. And also a reminder, if you're using heat mats, once your germinations are in, shut your heat mats off. Otherwise, you'll cook your germinations and they'll die. The heat mats are only to provide a little extra warmth, and they're effective. That's one thing Garden Mouse showed on one of her videos she did last week. She planted a whole bunch of Coleus seeds, and she had one tray she did one tray that was not on a heat mat and another tray that was, and the one that was on the heat mat, they were germinating. So heat mats are effective, but again, once your germinations show, disconnect them because they'll cook. The very young they'll cook the very young roots that are coming in. Okay, lastly, before we close out, cuttings. How are your cuttings doing? Your rootings. I'm sorry, they're rootings now. They're cuttings when you first cut them, and they're rootings once they start to root. I just added some water. These are my Lord Voldemorts. All of them are doing really, really well. Again, I just added some water to them. Here's another 3. So I have 9 rootings. I don't really need 9. But again, I cut more than I need just in case I lose some. But they are all doing pretty well. And I think we have one that's actually growing a seed stalk. And yes, here it is. So we're going to be watching this with great interest, because I would love to get some Lord Voldemort seeds. So we're going to keep an eye on this and try to make sure that we get this well pollinated with the brush, and hopefully we can get some viable Lord Voldemort seeds.
A few moments later.
All right, so there you are, everybody potted and happy to be in its new apartment. And I will be taking a bunch of cuttings and rooting them in the near future. I need to pace myself and get organized in here. I always try to stay a few steps ahead. I've been doing this for many years, but it's still, because it's just me, it's organizing. Have my rack in, got my potting mixture, fertilizer, beads, and before we know it, we'll be separating these. Certainly not this time, they're way too small. And we will, of course, have a video on that. But this Ruby Road is fantastic. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous plant. And of course the Orchard Road. And I managed to keep a Witch's Brew cutting from last summer, and it's doing fine. So at least I have Witch's Brew. The seeds, I'm out of seeds, but they were very difficult to separate. Unfortunately, a few people who purchased them from me, again, that's why I give you a lot of Coleus seeds. The seed chafe on these is very difficult to separate, so you're not going to get as many viable seeds. I tried to get as many as I could, but you know what? I look at it this way. Like me, I planted a bunch, and I got about maybe a dozen that are germinating. So that's a dozen Witch's Brew plants that I didn't have. So anyway, the Orchard Road is just blowing up. Wait until after we get the snowstorm and that bright, the storm passes and the sun comes out, or the bright daylight reflects off the snow. It just magnifies the light coming in here. And that's why these have done so well, because we've had snow on the ground for the past month and a half. And the Larambla is looking good, slow. And this is that Darth Vader, Jitters, Mosaic mix. I've trimmed this like 3 times already. It just doesn't stop. It just does not stop. It's not the prettiest thing, but it is a beautiful plant in itself. Okay, everybody, so thanks for watching Jim's Holiest of Coleus. Snow shovels are on standby. My son he actually took the train up to Boston to be with his cousin. They go to a gaming convention every year. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, Vince, Boston, we're actually getting worse snow than Boston is. Boston's used to this anyway. But anyway, but I said, plan on an extra few days, because the trains are not going to be running. And Monday, he's supposed to come home tomorrow. He is not going to be home tomorrow. So here we are, but we're going to have our landscaper come and plow and do some shoveling for us because I can't do it with my back. So it is what it is, as they say. Thanks for watching Jim's Holiest Coleus, and stay tuned. Before we know it, spring will be here. Trust me. Take care, everyone.